Now that we're halfway through the season, let's break down the Severance Season 2 intro and see what we can learn from it. Massive spoilers ahead. Okay, so right off the bat, the shirt Mark is wearing is the same color as the shirt he was reintegrated in. I like how you can see here that the reflections of Helly and Gemma are in the water, both running in different directions, essentially symbolizing that Mark himself is also split between the two. The babies can symbolize a couple of things. I think there's a clear reference to the fact that those who are severed are basically being born again and having to relearn the world, but also, is it possible that this hints at Helena being pregnant after her and Mark hooked up in episode 4? This clip clearly symbolizes Mark's reintegration that took place in episode 3. The Irving mug we now know is from his Innie's funeral. Also, notice that Audi Mark is working on the computer here, showing that Mark's reintegration is coming along. One of the most interesting images is Mark transforming into a goat, and I just made a video where I theorized that Lumen is using the brains of goats and transplanting them into people who are brain dead, and then using MDR to rewrite those brains. The scene on the ice is intriguing. On one hand, it could reference the Ortbo, but you can also see a car in the water. The popular theory is that it's Gemma's car from the accident, but if you look closely, the car looks very similar to Miss Cobell's car. Could just be coincidence, but was Miss Cobell somehow involved in Gemma's accident? The next part shows Mark's severed head floating from the one scene and waking him up in the next, so I do think this symbolizes the events of the Ortbo and Audi Mark suddenly being confused about what transpired. I'm very curious about the grass field, and whether that's meant to be a connection to the scene with the goats earlier in the season. Also notice the heads of Gemma and Helly, one on each side, and the fact that on one side Audi Mark is carrying the Innie and on the other side it's the opposite, symbolizing that they both need each other and need to learn to coexist. But the most interesting thing to me is that Miss Cobell is overseeing everything, and that the platform the Marks are standing on is actually a book she's reading, which I think symbolizes that this whole thing could actually be Miss Cobell's story. In my GOAT video, I also theorized that Project Cold Harbor is actually her project and that she's seen it through since the beginning, and that she has personal investment in it because her mother is in line for the same type of procedure Mark is unknowingly working on with Gemma, and she wants to know that it works. You have the blurred lines between Gemma and Helly, which we've already started to see come into play recently, and I think the baby Kier symbolizes that Lumen's ultimate goal is to somehow try to resurrect or recreate Kier. I'd love to hear some of your guys' thoughts on this.